A couple of things. I mean, it must have been a bit of a struggle.
It was a big struggle.
Big struggle. And what are you telling, what are you reassuring your prospective clients with your new guy in town? They don't know whether you're going to be around or not, really.
Yeah. Well, and they were, to begin with, they were smaller groups, okay? And I had to grow and I had to teach. I had to take clients and say, no, that's not realistic what you want. Let's see if we can bring that down a little bit, and maybe if you get part of what you want the first year, you can come back later and see how that works. And one of the things that I felt very strongly about when I represented an association was that it was in partnership with that group, and I expected them to take the time to talk to their own local lawmaker to let them know what they were interested in and to establish a relationship. Because if you're representing a group, Larry, and you have people that are taking the time to let their lawmaker know at the local level what they're interested in and what they want and what they expect, it's very helpful. I mean, you can be in Lansing as a lobbyist, but if the lawmaker says to you, well, Mary Ann back home says this, and that's pretty much what you've been saying, I can go along with that, and that sort of thing.
Right.
And it doesn't take too many contacts locally to get a lawmaker to say, ooh, if there's 4 or 5 people talking to me about that issue, there's probably a lot more the same way that haven't talked to me, so I better pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, so talk about how you developed your whole approach to what lobbying should be, and you've also talked about lifestyle things that you had to adjust as you went into this to get credibility.
Yeah. To start with, I had a philosophy, and then I still believe it, that the lawmaking process is very respectable and very important, because we have elected officials to do collectively for us what we can't do for ourselves, like the building of roads and the universities and the education, okay? Now, in that process, there are proposals that are made in the legislative process, and I strongly feel that if there's an issue out there that's controversial, it's very important that all the different points of view be expressed in that process, okay? If the lawmakers have all the points of view projected, they usually make good decisions, okay? And oftentimes they'll say, well, we're not ready for that, or, yeah, it's a good idea, but where's the money going to come from? And of course, the budget process is very important in this whole process. So the lobbyist's job is really to sort through and to help your client, be it a company, be it a hospital, whatever, to understand the process, okay, and to be involved in that process. And actually, in many ways, to help the lawmakers really understand how they're going to be affected, and how society's going to be effective. So,
All part of that teaching you talk about.
yeah, that was the challenge, I thought, and I enjoyed it. I did it for 30 years. The first 15 years I did it by myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it got to the point that I really couldn't serve the clients just by myself. I needed to expand, what have you.
Well, I think especially when you're doing the association part of it, plus the lobbying part of it. And you had clients going way back that, both of that. I mean,
that are still with the firm.
Still with the firm. Some who were a long time with the firm, like the broadcasters, who did a lot with that.
And McDonald's
Right.
and
McDonald's.
the
right.
judges and you know, it became a very interesting occupation. It
Right.
really did.
And you had to deal with things that lobbyists prior to you didn't deal with, which is conflicts between a client you might have and one you might be looking at.
Yeah.
How did you deal
Yeah,
with that?
very good point, good point. What you're talking about is potential conflicts of interest.
Correct.
Or conflicts of interest that right off the bat you say, hey, I can't take you as a client because I represent this client.
Correct.
Okay. But always, whenever there was a prospective client and I was being interviewed or talked about, I would review for myself and for that prospect, here's who I represent. Are there any conflicts of interest here that you can see? Okay. So I would try to, early on, determine whether there was a conflict or what have you. The other thing that was so important for our firm, and actually for any firm in the lobbying business, is credibility. What do the lawmakers think of you or of your firm? Are you honest to deal with, and things of that nature. And I was very proud to say over the years, our firm developed a very respected reputation, okay, within both parties. So I never had a problem. I had a Democratic background, of course,
Right.
but I could work very well with each party, okay.
Because what you were dealing with were the interests of your client.
That's right. That's right. And teaching the client
Right.
and making them a part of the process and getting them involved. Okay. And I would never, as a lobbyist, very seldom testify on a bill or anything. We would always get the client to bring in their best people to explain what they wanted or why they're opposed and that sort of thing. And here you get back to what I always have felt. If all the points of view are expressed on any given issue, the lawmakers usually make the right decision. So that's...
And you talk about the credibility of the firm, Michigan Legislative Consultants. What's the biggest risks as you look back that could have undermined that credibility, and you didn't? You preserved the credibility of the firm.
Honesty, no shady deals or anything like that. There's all kinds of lawmakers. You get to know the good ones and the bad ones and that sort of thing. And you work with leadership in the party or leadership in the legislative process. And you're very, very careful about who comes into your firm and what there's some clients you would not take under any circumstance.
Because?
Oh, for a variety of reasons. Probably because they were wheeler-dealer type clients that you would rather not be involved with.
Which almost leads into there's so much money in politics, and one of the things you have to be very clear about is you can't expect to vote because of any money considerations.
Oh, that's right, absolutely. When you have a relationship with a client, it would be illegal to have a contract or a relationship based on your compensation depending on whether you do or don't get something passed or you do or don't kill a bill. That's a no-no.
Right.
You know, you put your reputation out there, and if they want to hire you, and you do the best you can, and it served us well. But anyway, as we grew, about the halfway point, after 15 years, it was quite obvious to me I had to expand, get some people in. And the firm did. We hired a couple of people over the next 15 years. And the firm has grown, and they're still around. And we're very, very satisfied. And
You're very proud of what that firm is.
yeah, I did. And 50 years later, the firm is still in business.
Did celebrate its 50th anniversary.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. And it has grown and grown and grown.
Right.
But it's
I mean,
a good firm.
first you hired Fritz Benson to help out, and then Mike Bush, a Republican, your first.
Yeah, hired those two, and the firm grew, and the reputation grew, and there we are.
Right.